You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Rocky Mountain Rooftop, affiliate of Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Skyler Timmons, wearing my Avalanche jersey because go Avs as they start their next round of the playoffs against the Minnesota Wild, joined here by a heartbroken Nuggets fan, Evan Lang.
I don't even know how heartbroken I am at the end of the series because I feel like I got it out of the way early. Like, when I saw for the final game of the Nuggets series that AG wasn't playing, I basically put down my phone and said to my friend that I was with, I was like, yeah, we're done. This is done. And lo and behold, we were done.
Turns out in order to be a championship caliber team, you have to play defense, and the Nuggets didn't get that memo.
There's a lot of things wrong with this team, and I don't know what the answers are, but there's a lot of questions.
Yeah. Make Jokic happy.
The bright side does seem to be that, all the rumors floating around are that Jokic will sign another extension this offseason.
He better. But
it's like, I don't know. I don't know if David Adelman is the guy. I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of this roster. I don't understand what the point of begging Jonas Valanciunas to not go to Greece was if you're not going to give him a single minute of floor time during the entire playoffs.
I thought he did play.
Not very much.
Yeah. I don't know. The way it goes. But all our hopes rest on the Avalanche. Go Avs. Defeat the Wild. But
conquer the state of Minnesota.
Indeed.
Sports-wise.
Avenge your stadium brothers. And just absolutely destroy the Minnesota Wild. But we got Rockies baseball to talk about. It's May, Evan. Can you believe it? We're already a month into the season.
I know. It's gone by surprisingly quick.
It has. I was thinking about that. I'm like, it's already the start of May and 30-plus games now. We're like, geez.
But I wonder how much of that is because it feels like so much less of a slog than last year did. I mean, We'll get into it, but remember at this point last year we were all already fed up with everything.
Yeah.
And we're like, can this season please just be over now?
Yeah, the hopium has at least lasted a little bit longer into the season. It hasn't been an absolute just a baseball to the beans, to quote a certain car insurance commercial. But it's been fun, and this most recent week wasn't as fun because the Rockies faced off against Cincinnati Reds. They did end their road trip with a win, like a winning road trip, which hadn't happened in a while. And they also then got swept by the Braves at home in their opening series, which makes sense. And then they'll welcome the Mets here to finish out this homestand this coming week starting Monday. But Evan, it was an interesting week. Rockies did manage to win one game against the Reds, but two really good teams that the Rockies matched up against. And there were moments where they were competitive and even held the lead against these two teams that are leading their respective divisions, I believe.
Yeah, it's tough because we started the week on such a high note, is sweeping a doubleheader against the Mets. It was a lot of fun. We ended up sweeping the Mets in Queens and, leaving New York feeling rather triumphant. And then we played some teams that are actually pretty good right now. In the Reds, who have had their offense really flip a switch over the last week or so. Lots of home runs, very potent. And the Braves, which are pretty much the best team in baseball right now. And rather unsurprisingly, I would say, we got our teeth kicked in for most of those two series. Yeah. Especially the Braves one, though. The Braves one was rough.
Yeah, there's some of those. It's kind of, but it was a good measure of like bring you back down to earth. Like, yeah, the Rockies are still figuring some things out. This is like teams that are clicking on all cylinders. The Braves are always doing their thing, and despite all the injuries and everything they've had, you know, Walt Weiss has done a good job running the ship over there for Atlanta. So they're playing well. Offense is. I think that's the thing is that the Rockies finally met up with teams that are finally like, kind of hit their stride, firing on all cylinders, have warmed up in the season, and the pitching staff kind of running out of gas maybe a little bit or just getting out overmatched. And I think that was the thing that we saw in the Braves and the Reds is that they were struggling to prevent runs. The offense was doing maybe just enough to stay in games and win games, and then the pitching was letting them down at points. And vice versa, but a lot of it seemed to come back down to the pitching was struggling a little bit, and I think that's a good segue into our first bit with the bullpen. I think it was the bullpen, especially because we saw some leads late or the dominant bullpen just wasn't able to do their job of putting out fires and shut the door and give the Rockies chances to win.
Yeah, it's in the Brave series it's tough because it felt like it was sort of a largely a failing on all parts except for the biggest one that really stood out was that series opener against the Braves where the starting pitching Jose Quintana did his job. He kept the Braves at bay for 6 innings, got a quality start, and then the bullpen came in and promptly imploded. Lots of walks, lots of hits, lots of contact, and the problem is, the Rockies are still developing a lot of these pitchers, or there's going to be mistakes as they work to find their pitching identity. And a team like the Atlanta Braves right now, one of the best teams in baseball, one of the most potent offenses in baseball, are not going to let you get away with mistakes. They are going to capitalize on every opportunity that you give them. And that's pretty much exactly what happened throughout the Red series, throughout the Brave series, is when it came to the bullpen, and we'll talk about the starters in a little bit as well, but when it came to the bullpen is they came in and they made mistakes that they couldn't get away with against strong offenses. There's not
Yeah.
much else you can really say on the matter. And while, there are some concerning trends in the Rockies bullpen right now, Jimmy Herget has struggled after coming back from paternity. We've seen Victor Vodnik struggle. We've seen some of the other guys start to kind of fade a little bit after starting out really strong. It's tough, but then you've got to remember that we just played two very good teams, two very good offenses, and it's a matter of, and we've said this now a bunch of different times on this show, is keeping your expectations measured,
Mm-hmm.
of remembering that this is still not a good team. And I feel like I say this way too often right now, but it's true. And it is tough because you don't want to watch the Rockies lose. And it's been nice that for the most part, they go into every game with an opportunity to win. Like, very,
Yeah.
very rarely has it felt like it's a foregone conclusion that the Rockies are going to lose.
Yeah. And it's been like, the offense is picking up a little bit more, but there's confidence like, oh, the starting pitcher, like you mentioned, Jose Quintana. No, that's against the Atlanta Braves. No, Rockies put up a 5 spot in the bottom of the first. They add on one more in the second. You're like, okay, it's cruising pretty well. A 6-1, a 6-0 lead. No, it gives up a run in the fourth. So it's 6-1 by the time Quintana leaves. You're like, okay, like that bullpen, we feel like this is in the bag. Like we're going to take a game from Atlanta to open up this series. But then it's run given up in the seventh, 4 runs given up in the eighth. All of a sudden it's tied. And then a 2-run homer in the top of the ninth gives them the 8-6 lead. And it just deflating losses. And it kind of goes back to that Padres series where we see Victor Vodnik implode, in that late game. And you're starting to see the cracks in the bullpen a little bit, like you mentioned. It could be part of the league catching up. You're running into better teams, but also just the overexposure because Rockies have used a lot of these relievers a lot. Now, the starting pitching still hasn't really settled into its groove. You're getting length out of them here and there, but it's still outside of Tomoyuki Sagano. Like everybody else is kind of up and down, iffy on what kind of start you're going to get out of him. Michael Lorenzen especially. So you're starting to see those cracks show, but it's a number of things. You're 30 games plus into the season. The exposure teams now have better, reports of, okay, these are what these guys are doing now. This is what we can expect. And so I think that's kind of playing into it as well. But I think the big thing, Evan, too, is the walks have started to creep up a little bit for a lot of guys.
Yeah, and we saw a lot early in the season of just pound the strike zone and come what may, which was supposed to kind of be the overall pitching philosophy coming into the season of you can't nibble. You've got to place your
Yeah.
pitches and you've got to execute. And we are seeing a lot more recently nibble, 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 missing your spots. And then when you do make a mistake, it gets punished.
Yeah.
And, a really good example of that was today's performance from Antonio Senzatela against the Braves, where he pitched 2 2/3 innings and gave up 2 earned runs, only his second and third earned runs of the season. But he was not locating his pitches. He was kind of nibbling around people, and it didn't really work. And you've seen some of the other guys where it's more and more walks. And when you have 6 walks, 7 walks in a game, that's just not going to work. And the
Yeah.
problem is when your offense isn't doing the same thing to capitalize on mistakes, you just can't really keep up. Like, I think back to today's Brave game, the Braves walked 6 Rockies hitters. The Rockies had, 11 hits?
Yeah.
That's a winning formula 9 times out of 10. But when the offense, as we know, can't necessarily always capitalize on those opportunities, you're just not going to keep up. And that
Yeah.
means that every mistake made by the starters, made by the bullpen, is going to hurt you even more.
Yeah. I was just looking at the past 7 days for pitching in the league. The Cincinnati Reds have walked the most in baseball, 33 over the last 7 days. The Atlanta Braves are tied for second with 30 walks. I'm not sure if I think these count for today too. If not, it's still in the realm. Like you mentioned, like it's not like the opposing, and it ties into the offense part of things where opposing teams, like the pitching, kind of iffy this past week, like the Braves and the Reds. Now, outside of Chris Sale and like even Chase Burns for Cincinnati was dominant, but Rockies had their chances. Now, against their bullpens late in those games, like the offense still not firing on all cylinders, but you're starting to see the improvement, drawing more walks, like you mentioned, putting on pressure, but they're not getting that big hit and just stacking on, tagging on runs and missed opportunities puts all the more pressure on your bullpen for even then, the Rockies scored 6 runs in the first 2 innings, nothing the rest of the way. That's hard to win, especially when you're at Coors Field.
Yeah. And today, another really good example of that, of they actually had kind of more consistent offense where they scored in multiple innings. They scored late. They had opportunities, but they still only went like 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
They left 9 guys stranded. You had a base running mistake. You had, some guys are just really unlucky. Ezekiel Tovar right now, he's doubled essentially his walk total over the last couple days for the entire season, and he's not striking out as much. Like, we are seeing him work on things, but then when he does make good contact, it seems like it's flying right into the mitt of the defender. And it's just one of those things where you can't keep up. It's the uneven nature of a rebuilding team of one side is gonna let you down at some point,
Yeah.
but where things really fall apart is when both sides let you down. And I know that you can say that about any team, but for the Rockies especially, what are the big wins, the most impressive wins that we have seen this season, the ones that make you feel the best about where the Rockies are the ones where they played a good complete ball game, where both the pitching and the offense was working pretty good. And every team is going to have games where it's, the pitching really bailed us out of this one, or the offense really bailed us out of this one. But the Rockies are just at a point right now where I don't think, especially against strong opponents, they're going to be able to have those kinds of games where one side is really going to bail you out more than the other, especially when you've got the unevenness between different parts of the lineup when it comes to hitting and different parts of the pitching staff when it comes to the rotation is showing its cracks. Or we finally had a really pretty bad game overall from the opener and Chase Dolander combo.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good quick segue as we finish out this first segment. I think that was the big surprise, is that you would hope that Chase Dolander could just continue his thing. And of course, he probably wasn't going to be a sustainer. Everybody has a clunker. But after that excellent start against the Mets, they go back to the opener. They use Brendan Bernardino against the Braves, and immediately gives up 2 runs, 2 batters into the game, and Dolander has to come in with 2 outs in the first inning, and then he continues on to not have the best stuff. Probably the same kind of performance he had in his first outing of the year against Toronto, but it's kind of showing some of the cracks in some other plans of the opener. I understand their reasoning behind it, but the openers aren't exactly responding to the job they're being asked to fill.
Yeah, I was originally more on board of like, okay, well, let's talk about, we can keep using the opener, it's fine. Whereas Skyler, for you for the last couple weeks, you've been just saying, it's not really necessary anymore. Just let Dolander go in to start the game and he can succeed or fail on his own merits. But looking at the numbers, it's really just not working that well in terms of an opener, where Dolander has been great, but they're still kind of putting him in a hole to start every game, where the Rockies have used an opener 6 times this season. Jimmy Herget 3 times, Brennan Bernardino twice, and Juan Mejia once. In 5 of those games, they've allowed a first inning run.
Yeah.
And the opener has a 10.8 ERA over 5 innings with 6 earned runs.
And 2 of those outings, Dolander came in the first inning.
And if he's going to have to come into the first inning anyway, then just have him be the starter. And it's, Dolander was not good against the Braves. He talked about his fastball being much more inconsistent against them. He, threw 97 pitches. He had just not a very good game. He didn't get as many strikeouts as we've seen him get, and he got punished for his mistakes. But that's something that could have happened with or without an opener.
Yeah.
And every pitcher is due a clunker. Even the best of the best are going to have a clunker sometimes. And I went into yesterday's game going, I'm not feeling super good about this. I feel like we might be finally due a stinker. And lo and behold, that's what happened. But
It was your fault.
Yeah, probably. But I do legitimately think that the opener right now for Dolander has run its course. It's not necessary anymore.
Or expand the horizons of who can be opening for him. Like, throw Victor Vodnik in there if you want. No, you don't want Dolander facing that top 3 at the start of the game. You don't have a proverbial closer, so throw Vodnik in there as an opener. No, if you're going to keep with the opener, you got to keep experimenting a little more of, okay, who's really effective to start the game facing that top of the order. Because, okay, we've tried Bernardino, we've tried Herget. Pre-baby Herget, I think, probably would be fine, but he's dealing with his struggles now, having been gone for a week. With a new baby and all that stuff, sleep deprived, all that good stuff. But keep experimenting. Who else? No, Zach Gagnos. Can he be the opener? No, could Vodnik? You could Jaden Hill. I know you want to keep them for later in the game, but at some point you got to experiment if you're going to have your kind of closer by committee type approach. Even though Vodnik is pretty much the closer.
Yeah, and for Brendan Bernardino, I've seen some people comment on this, and I don't necessarily disagree, is that he is your only lefty in the bullpen, and you are burning him in the first inning of the game. And if you then need a lefty at any other part of that game, you don't have one.
Yeah, it's becoming too beholden to matchups and the fact that he's facing this number of lefties at the start of the game. Like, I understand what you're trying to do, but it's always the argument when it comes to like the analytical side of the game is don't become so beholden to it that it handcuffs you into every decision that you're making. Like you mentioned, like, yeah, he's our only lefty. Okay, let's try somebody else, and then just so we have that back in our pocket. Now, the lefty here at the start of the game isn't as important as having the lefty near the middle or end of the game when it's even more important.
Yeah, and I think a part of that does have to do with the overall roster construction right now with the Rockies, but at some point, it's time to move on from certain strategies and try other things, and I think it's time to move on from using the opener for Dolander. I think his body of work right now, he's already pitching basically a starter's level of innings. Just have him be the starter.
Yeah. Give him a try. Let it run its course a couple times. Then if he struggles then you go back to the opener. Like, continue to experiment.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah. Except baseball games.
Which you're going to lose some anyway. So, hey.
You've already lost about 20 of them. What's one more? But yeah. We'll see what happens. Pitching, a little bit rougher week, but they'll come around, get back to it. You have Sugano ready to take down the Mets again, so good old Sugi. But that'll do it here on this first segment. When we come back, let's talk about two of the new, I guess they're the first baseman for the Rockies, when we come back here on Affected by Altitude. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Evan, what do trees and people each have?
Roots.
You son of a... Yes, it's roots.
Is it really? That's a good guess on my part, then.
You got the guess. Oh, yeah, but what has 4 eyes but can't see? Evan when he's wearing his glasses. Oh!
Hey. I can see, kind of.
The answer is Mississippi.
Are you reading Laffy Taffy jokes again?
No.
I told you to keep those out of here.
But I'll tell you what's not a laughing matter. Rockies rookie first baseman, TJ Rumfield and Troy Johnson. They've been fun little fellows. But we figured, like, hey, we haven't really talked about them since the beginning of the season. Let's talk about them more. And Evan, we're 30 games, or we're a month into having these two guys on the roster. And who would you say, what's been your takeaways from these two guys on the roster and the roles they're playing with the Rockies right now?
TJ Rumfield is one of the slowest people I've ever seen play baseball. The Nolan Arenado University of base running, where you're running with cement shoes. Like, when he's playing defense, he's fine. He's perfectly nimble enough, and you watch him try and run the bases, and he is not quick. But overall, I'm really impressed with TJ Rumfield. He is actually tied for second place in overall hits for any rookie hitter in Major League Baseball right now, and he is currently the National League leader for overall hits. He's doing quite well, and we've seen him. He started off very hot after a very good spring training where he earned the job, and he's sort of slowed down a little bit. And it's not something I'm particularly worried about, because you still see him come in and have these good games. Had a great game today, hit a home run, he's hitting doubles. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, and I'm hoping that he's not feeling any sort of pressure, because honestly, right now there shouldn't be any pressure on him. He can just go out and play the game how he wants to play it and work with the coaches. And I'm really, really impressed overall with how he's playing, where he's getting clutch hits. He is in the he's in the top 5 for rookies in RBI. He's drawing walks at a decent clip. He's still a Rockies hitter. He strikes out a decent amount, but he's not striking out as much as a lot of other rookie batters are. The only thing that he's really not going to do right now in terms of his game at the plate is he's not going to steal a base. Yeah. If you allow TJ Rumfield to steal a base on you, something's gone wrong there. But, you know, you look at his numbers and he's got an OPS of 754. Pretty solid. He's, you know, hitting what, 268, 329, 425. I like what I'm seeing from him. And it's one of those things we've talked about, and we'll probably talk about it more as the year goes on. You have a spot now where you have a rookie who is performing, and he's arguably performing about as well as the veterans on the team. And it means that you don't have to rush or worry about calling up anyone prematurely. We've talked about it at length before. TJ Rumfield being even moderately successful means we don't have to be begging them to call up Charlie Condon, who's still working on not doing bad, but still working on finding his groove down in AAA, especially when it comes to his power swing. Very similar at the beginning of this season, the beginning of last for Condon, where he's getting the hits, he's getting on base, and we're waiting for the power to come. But for TJ Rumfield, he's playing just about as well as anybody else on the team right now.
Oh.
And this is something that he's done throughout the bulk of his professional career, especially in AAA when he was still with the Yankees organization. I'm happy. My big thing is that I don't want to see him being the DH as often as we have. Just have him be the first baseman, because defensively he is fine, versus the other guy we need to talk about is, you know, when they put him at first base, it's been not very good.
Yeah, we'll talk on Troy Johnson in a second. We'll keep on Rummy here. But I was looking here, Evan, and I wanted to pull up the first 35 games. Now that he's played 35 games, he has matched the quote-unquote first 35 games of a certain Hall of Famer's career. Todd Helton, who played 35 games to begin his career in 1997. They've now both played 35 games at that point in their careers. Of course, Helton was 26. Wow. Todd Helton got to the big leagues old. I mean, quote unquote old.
Think about how that used to be sort of the regular thing, though. Like, remember, it was unheard of when Ken Griffey Jr. made it to the bigs, and he was what, 19?
Yeah.
Versus,
and Todd had only been in the minors for a year and a half.
Yeah, think about, you drafted guys out of college, and then you had 6+ individual affiliates that you had to get them through as they made their way up.
Yeah, but looking through, and
back in my day.
But Todd Helton, through his first 35 games, had a negative 0.2 WAR, 26 hits, had 5 homers, 11 RBIs, hit 280 with a 337 on base, 484 slugging, and an 821 OPS with a 96 OPS plus. It's like a pretty solid start to his career, and then of course he takes off after that in the following years. TJ Rumfield now through 35 games. He has 34 hits in 127 at bats. Has 4 home runs now, a triple, 6 doubles, 19 RBIs, and is hitting 268, 329, 425. So not too shabby through his first 35 games, like pretty close to Helton level of production in his first 35 games of his career. And of course, Todd splitting time between left field and third base, but he's got more doubles than Todd did, more RBIs, more walks. Of course, he's had more plate appearances overall. Of course, more strikeouts, but still pretty similar in OPS and OPS plus, all that stuff. Not a bad way to start your career when you're heralding one of the greatest first basemen of the 21st century.
And it's one of those ones where we've been tricked before, as it were, with first base prospects. You know, the Rockies have very infamously been unable to replace Todd Helton since he retired. It's been almost 15 years at this point. It's been a rough go of, you know, of bringing in veterans, of bringing in other guys, of having guys who are not first basemen play first base, of having prospects not work out. You had Eleris Montero, you had Michael Tolia, and the Rockies went out and said, well, what is a position of need? We don't really have a pure first baseman, do we? And they went and they got one, a rookie for not a huge cost, honestly, for Angel Chivie, 1-1.
Yeah.
And so far, I think Rumfield is really passing the eye test of if he can keep this up, of like, you're not asking him to go on this insane pace, but he's just been overall very solid. And he's had some breakout games and he's had some bad games. But overall, the performance has just been consistently good.
Yeah. And also have to correct myself. I misread their ages. It's TJ Rumfield who's 26. Todd Helton was 23. I flip-flopped when I was looking at the numbers.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Todd Helton was much younger, which makes sense. But yeah, Evan, he passes that eye test because you just watch. And when you watch him and the at-bats he takes, like a lot of the time he's taking these long professional at-bats, fighting off pitches. Like he takes some long quality at-bats, and it reminds you of watching Todd Helton from the left side. And you'd like to see, I hope Rumfield can, because when he wallops a ball, man, does he wallop it. But hopefully you like to see him get more, balls into the gap, use that, tap into his power a little more, find a way to connect with pitches more. And I think that's why we're seeing like opposing teams are throwing him more breaking balls and stuff, because they realize, he can handle a fastball, no problem. It's the breaking pitches that's how we're going to attack him. And he's just going to continue to make those adjustments, but taking good at bats, drawing walks, plays a solid first base. Like the greatest thing with the rookie, especially, is that you watch him and you forget that he is a rookie, or like he's not a liability. You're not calling it, well, because he's a rookie, so he's struggling. He's just one of the guys now. Now he goes in, does his business, says very little, and just goes about his business prepping. And it's fun to watch. I like TJ Rumfield.
Yeah, it's tough because you look at him, you look at the raw numbers, and they're not like the best in the world. And you look at the wins above replacement, and coming into today's game, it was sitting squarely at 0. And wins above replacement has always been tough for first basemen to begin with, especially with the defensive aspect. But you go through and you look, and he's keeping the ball off the ground, which is huge. He's not really grounding into double plays, which is a backbreaker. His strikeout rate is well below league average. He's drawing more walks than pretty much anybody on the team other than Kyle Karros. He goes out there and he does his business, and he does it very stoically. It's very funny because you see him do like the dance or like a little pose when he gets on base, completely stone-faced.
He's doing it because they told him he should do it.
Yeah, it reminds me of Sungwon Oh, whose nickname was the Stone-Faced Buddha.
I thought he was the final boss.
He was both, actually.
Can I have multiple nicknames?
Sure you can.
Darn, he's got me there. Yeah, TJ, he's been fun to watch. Will he be a Rookie of the Year candidate by the end of the season? Probably not. Will he get some votes? Hopefully, if he can just continues on his course throughout the season, he can garner some votes somewhere. But he doesn't have the prestige of like a Connor Griffin or the other guy, Sal Stewart?
Sal Stewart for the Reds. Who's been fabulous. Like, they're all very well earned. But the fact that he is statistically hanging out there with the best of the rookies this year in what could end up being a pretty strong rookie class right now, and just in terms of like we said, passing the eye test, he is at the very least going to get some votes. Yeah. And you know what? That's good enough for me most of the time. Yeah. We know that the Rockies are always going to be, especially with how bad they are always going to be counted out for awards like that. That's just sort of how it goes, because the national media isn't really paying attention to us.
Yeah. Nope. Unless we show up on MLB Network when they go to play the Mets. But fun times with the TJ Rumfield. And then, like you mentioned, just the opposite personality of Rumfield is Troy Johnson.
The other TJ.
Oh, it's true. TJ to TJ. But Troy Johnston, who just a delightful individual, just playing with just pure joy and fun. Also just the mouth of a sailor when he does strike out or pop something up, or his running error on today against the Braves in the 9th inning, where, You don't need to be John Boy to be able to read his lips and understand what he said after he got thrown out trying to go back to first.
Yeah, but I kind of like it, honestly. Like, it's one of those things where sometimes you need a guy who's going to wear his feelings on his sleeve. And when overall those feelings have been so positive, like with Troy Johnson, he's just an absolute golden retriever of a man. You listen to his interviews and he's talking about how much he loves everybody and how much fun he's having and all that stuff. And it's like, this is the kind of thing that I feel like the Rockies have sorely missed over the last few years, where especially, the beginning of last year, everybody seemed absolutely miserable all the time.
Yeah. And it's easier to be, the upbeat and and have that enthusiasm when things aren't like they were last year. When they're going, fairly all right, fun times. But I think it also helps that you have a guy like Troy Johnson who can just help morale there in the clubhouse. Because he is just that golden retriever of a human being. Just having fun. He's come up with celebrations out at second base and just having fun with the guys. And you can definitely tell that he helps with those vibes in that clubhouse. Keep it fun, keep it loose. And when you look at his story and how he's not even supposed to be here at the moment. Like, he was ready to give up baseball a couple years ago. Had a job lined up, selling stuff, or was it like medical stuff or whatever, because of somebody that he knew in the minors. Had those connections. But the fact that he's continued to click in and is now having a lot of success with the Rockies, you can't help but root for the guy. That underdog, just, I'm happy to be here. I'm just going to love playing baseball, because the alternative is like, he's not taking it for granted. And I think that's very infectious. And I think it's helping in that clubhouse.
Honestly, he's kind of like Blaine Crim from last year, an older corner outfield, corner infield kind of guy, really just getting into the bigs, hasn't really gotten that much of an opportunity, but like cranked up to 11 in terms of the personality and in terms of honestly his performance. He's been playing very, very well when it comes to, hitting. Now, his defense is a problem, let's say, but you look at how he is hitting right now, and there's just so much to like, where he comes in and he gets pretty much a hit. If he's in the lineup, he's likely going to get a hit. If he is in the lineup, he is, playing somewhere. He's been in right field, he's been in the outfield, and there's a lot of different things you can say about that. But for a guy who right now is hitting 321, 385, 453, one of the higher OPS on the team at 838. He's got 2 home runs, 16 ribbies, 8 doubles, and he has the same amount of hits at the end of today's game as TJ Rumfield.
Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff.
And that's in about 20 fewer at bats.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, like, he just got squeezed out from Miami, like no space on their roster. And whoever it is of the council that made the decision to bring him in, because he's not a DePodesta selection pickup, because DePodesta didn't have the job. Maybe he influenced the Rockies while they were in the searching process, because apparently that was the first call they made was to DePodesta.
So they say.
So they say. But whoever made the decision as part of the council of whoever's making those decisions on those waiver pickups, they struck gold on this one, where he's just filling in these roles. And yeah, the defense, not great. I'm glad he glad he got a new glove for first base, because he just could not squeeze a ball with that first baseman's glove, just kept pooping out. And then he's made some nice catches in the outfield, but anything beyond a routine play, he's having trouble with. But it's passable enough where you're like, whatever. Yeah. As long as he backs it up with the bat, which he does. Like,
the main thing has been just, it's really stood out over these last couple of games Today, especially, all the doubles that are going over his head or bouncing off the wall, just not necessarily taking the best approach to him. Um,
But
and
he's not familiar with Coors Field, and we know Coors Field right field is actually a very difficult position to play.
and I would argue that he is a better corner outfielder than he is a first baseman right now, where first base has been a little leaky for him. And then you had that game. Who was it against? Was it against the Reds where he just could not get a hold of anything?
Mm.
Yeah, it was because they had that
Been
pickoff play
before.
where it should have been an out, but
Well,
it
it wasn't against the Reds then.
it
It was
was
like
it was
against the Padres or something.
it was over the last. I think it was over the last week though. But overall, it's one of those guys, and you look at him, and at the same time, he's also striking out significantly less. He's only got 24 strikeouts, and he's one of just 5 Rockies hitters with double-digit walks. So he's playing pretty well-rounded right now. And the power is not as big a thing. He's only got the 2 home runs. But then again, outside of Mickey Moniak and Hunter Goodman, there's not a lot of home runs happening right now.
Yeah.
And he's overall he's getting clutch hits. He's driving in runs. He's a big thing that he's done is, I don't know if it's, I need to look at his metrics when it comes to his bat control and his swing path, because it always seems like at least once a game he's managing to squeeze something just past a fielder or right into the gap where it needs to be. And that kind of thing is really important. And we've especially seen him do other things like lay down bunts when necessary, and he's done fairly well at that.
Yeah, and he's also a guy that comes up big in the clutch. Like he's had some big clutch hits, guys and runners in scoring position, has really good numbers in that department, which is huge because you need guys that can hit with people in scoring position. That's been a problem for years. And no, you wish you could have him up every time when there's guys in scoring position, but it's not too shabby. With runners in scoring position, this is coming into Sunday in that series finale, hitting 440, a 440 average, 563 on base, 520 slugging with runners in scoring position. 6 walks, 4 strikeouts, 13 RBIs, has 2 doubles, so he's 11 for 25. And that's into Sunday. So I'm not sure if he had runners in scoring position on Sunday for him, but regardless, he's hitting over 400 with runners in scoring position. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's getting the job done. He's been a really, really nice pickup for the Rockies that, he played well in his very brief stint with the Marlins when he got called up last year. But this was a guy who, like you said, they have such a packed outfield. They didn't really need a 28-year-old rookie. And so he ends up coming to the Rockies, and he ends up being an infusion of vitality into this roster.
Yeah. Like to the point where it's him and Mickey Moniak showing up on MLB Network. No, these are the 2 guys that come to represent the Rockies, and he's wearing the purple jacket, having a good time. Like he's been a fun addition. He's kind of heralds back to those old fan favorites. Guys just having a blast. Great personality. Just infectious. Like I can't imagine that if you're in a bad mood, go be around Troy Johnson. I'm sure he can get you out of that pretty quickly.
He seems like, who he reminds me of, honestly, in terms of like just the really infectious, positive personality? Spilly, back in his playing days, of just being like the fun guy, the lifeblood kind of the thing, even if he's not
less of a
necessarily
punching bag.
the best player.
Yeah. Just a quality player that's just one of the guys. And every team needs those guys. Like not everybody has to be the elite guy. You just need somebody that's a good contributor and then a really good teammate as well. There's value in clubhouse guys.
Exactly. Your glue guys.
Yeah. And they have even more value when they are playing well. And Troy Johnson isn't the butt of every joke, so it's all good.
Until he ends up in the broadcast booth in 20 years.
Hey, I'd take Troy Johnson.
He seems like he'd be a good broadcaster, honestly.
Yeah, he seemed like he'd be a fun sideline guy in that sideline position. Anything that's not Corey Sullivan just quoting movies nonstop.
I like Corey, but sometimes he needs to dial that back. It's that, and he has been better with it this year, but his unceasing hatred for calling it a sweeper.
Yeah, and all kinds of other things.
Sully, if you're
Corey, you
listening
were
to
an.
this, we do love you.
Yes, we do.
Skyler, now's not the time to be burning bridges.
But fun times with our TJs. I look forward to seeing what they continue to do as they continue to adjust and play over these next few weeks and into June and into the summer months. Because maybe when the summer, though, the weather starts to warm up a little bit, we'll see some of that power start to click in a little more.
That's what I'm hoping for, because we both know that they've got pop. We have seen them make some really authoritative contact on the ball. And, probably not going to happen in this series against the Mets coming up, where it's looking to get cold and wet, apparently.
The Mets. It's all about the Mets, baby. Hit a home run against the Mets. But that'll do it here for this segment. When we come back, Evan, it's the return of a segment that we abandoned for 2025. It's coming back.
We had to abandon it pretty quickly, too.
Yes. Once May rolled around, we're like, ugh. But let's talk about that when we come back here on Affected by Altitude. Back here to Affected by Altitude, our last segment here, Skyler and Evan with you. And like we alluded to, you may have noticed that last year we abandoned naming players of the month for the Rockies, and for good reason, is because it would have been like one person every month because the team was so bad that really nobody deserved that honor ever. The pitcher would have been like, it's Jimmy Herget again.
It basically would have been Jimmy Herget pretty much every month, because Jimmy had a great year last year. Don't get me wrong,
and then position player would have been, it's Hunter Goodman.
Pretty much. And the rest of the team was it was bad. It was a bad team that wasn't fun to watch. And for this year, the fact that we at least made it through the first month and, had some fun. Like I keep saying, is that I don't think people get is like, even if the Rockies are bad, and they're fun and watchable, and you can tune into the game and not expect to be miserable for the entire night. I made it until yesterday, until May 2nd, before I quit a game that wasn't going well.
I've done it a couple times where I'm like, I want to watch something else. It's usually like, I've got something else I need to do.
Or like the Avs are going to be on soon or something like that.
It was usually that.
But
we've at least watched parts of every game.
Yeah, and for the most part, there's been stuff to like in every game. There's been maybe 2 or 3 games this year where you can go, man, that was just an overall stinker.
That was just a big old wet fart.
Pretty much, like yesterday.
Mm-hmm. But that means we can bring back our Player of the Month discussion, though, and it's adapted over the years, but it mostly boiled down to who's the pitcher of the month, who's the position player of the month. We used to name an MVP of the two, but it kind of seemed redundant doing that because it always seemed to be, it would go to the position player. So, pitcher of the month, position player of the month. And so, pitcher of the month, Evan, who is your April/March, March/April player of the month? Pitcher of the month.
See, this one I actually think is kind of tricky because we actually had some really, really good overall pitching, and I've just really enjoyed it. But who do I want to pick?
The fact that there are choices, I think.
Yeah, I think that really is the big thing is we've got choices here. And overall, I think it boils down to 2 guys in terms of who you would give this to. No, honestly, there's 3 guys. Can I just tell you who my 3 are and then pick one?
Maybe.
I would say my candidates for this would be Chase Dolander Antonio Senzatela, and Tomoyuki Sugano. Overall, I think I would maybe give the nod to Chase Dollander, whose ERA isn't as low as Senzi and Sugano's, but 39 strikeouts over 32 innings, 7 appearances, and really only in that month of March and April, one real dud. And it was his first appearance coming out of the bullpen. It was against, Toronto? Where that game was already so in hand that it didn't really matter how he performed. But then after that, he comes out, he leads the team in strikeouts. He's been incredibly dominant. And yes, he had the one stinker yesterday against the Braves. And, that's a lineup where there's not really a lot of shame in having that be your dud. And it also wasn't in March or April, so it doesn't count for this particular exercise. I am really impressed with Chase Dollander. He has looked poised. He has looked confident. He has looked like he has matured both mentally and with his game from last year.
Very well. Is your decision?
Yes, that's who I decided to go with. But I still wanted to shout out Senzatela, who's been fabulous, and Sugano, who has been arguably the most consistent of that starting rotation.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's pretty much what I would go to. It's kind of down between Dollander and Sugano for me. But I think a big part of it is just Dollander just adapting to the role that he's in, and just dominating on the mound. 39 strikeouts in 7 games, 32 innings of work. He threw the second most innings of anybody in those first quote unquote month of the season. More pitches than more innings than only Lorenz had more innings at 34. But Dollander has 39 strikeouts. That's like 15 more than the next closest person. Almost 40 strikeouts in 32 innings and just 9 walks. Like the evolution that Dollander had is huge. And you're seeing him take the steps into being the ace that the Rockies hope he can be. Now, he showed number one stuff all the time just because he has confidence in his fastball and variations of the fastball. And then he's working in the slider, the off-speed pitches, the secondaries. He's working off those very well. And so it's hard not to give it to him. But like you said, it's like you could say the same about Senzatela, who's adapted to his role very well. And it's nice to just see guys growing. There's options, but yeah, Dollander has to take it above the rest.
Yeah.
A very close second for me was Sugano.
The idea that Rockies pitchers can actually develop and heck, give the pitcher of the month award to Alon Leishman and his crew.
Yeah.
Because our 2 of our 3 guys that we've mentioned here are guys who had to evolve and adapt, change roles, look different, try new things. But for Dollander, it really is when we were sitting here and we opened the show talking about Dollander and how good he's been, and maybe we take the training wheels off with the opener and just have him be a starter, have him be in the rotation, especially when we don't know when Ryan Feltner is going to be back, especially when we have the flexibility to do so. Do it, give it a try and see, because he's already shown that he can adapt and overcome and face these challenges that are coming towards him.
Yeah. Do we pull an audible and expand our awards to also a reliever of the month?
If we do, I think it would be Antonio Senzatela.
Yeah, Senzi.
And I think it's definitely worth shouting out Senzatela, who finished the month of March and April with a .46 ERA in 9 appearances, 19 2/3 innings, a whip of just 0.712, 19 strikeouts, 5 walks, no home runs given up, and only 2 runs, 1 earned.
Remember how many hits he was giving up in his first couple of starts last year and said somehow not giving up a ton of runs?
Yeah, he was getting so lucky.
Yeah,
And then
like that
eventually
game
the
against
luck
Dan.
ran out and
Yeah,
it was rough. And, we've talked about him as well of, you want to see a difference a year can make. Look at the stat cast.
yeah. Also, shout out Brennan Bernardino, 0.71 ERA in March and April.
Yeah. Bernie's been great. Like overall, it's been the opener yesterday was frustrating. And he didn't have his sharpest stuff. And honestly, both of the times we've used him as an opener, he hasn't really had his sharpest stuff, which makes me think it's not necessarily the role for him, which is fine because his late innings work and his overall work out of the Rockies bullpen as a true reliever has been a fantastic pickup for the Rockies.
Yeah.
What a good trade.
Yeah. So, how about that? 8 guys with a sub-4 ERA. You can count Halverson in that. 7 to 8 guys with a sub-4 ERA in the first month of the season. Not too shabby.
No, not at all. I am
But
content.
there we
And I
go.
feel like we
That's
don't get to
all you
say that
need.
very often about this pitching staff.
It's true. So, I guess Stolander is our unanimous of the month. But that turns us over to the position player of the month, which there's a lot of good options with this one as well. We talked about 2 of them in the previous segment, but Evan, who do you got for your player of the month?
I think, Skyler, we've got to come down to Electric Avenue because my March and April player of the month would be Mickey Moniak,
Oh,
who he's not perfect. He still strikes out at a pretty big clip, but honestly, compared to some other guys on this team, not that bad. Like in the month of March and April, he had 25 strikeouts. For comparison, Hunter Goodman had 46. Brenton Doyle had 32, and Ezekiel Tovar had 35. Versus guys we have praised immensely, TJ Rumfield 20, Troy Johnston 22. So I can't really complain about the strikeouts that much because when he gets a hold of the ball, my goodness, he's hitting. He's hitting him hard. He's hitting him far. 8 home runs to start the season in that month. He's already gotten that up to 11 so far early in May. He ended the first full month of the season hitting 315, 361, 625 with a team leading 1.013 OPS. The only guy that has a bigger OPS than that is Braxton Fulford, who had 5 plate appearances.
yeah. Who has 2 for 5 with a home run. Yeah, it's pretty easy to hand it to Mickey Moniak. I will as well. It makes it easy for us. Yeah, it's nice to see Mickey. No, it was a question coming into the year of like, can Mickey replicate what he did last year, or no? And he still has his issues, like the left on left stuff. Still got to figure it out. And he takes full advantage of Coors Field, which is great. And people are gonna hold the hitting on the road type of stuff over him, which yeah, that's what happens. But he takes advantage of his home ballpark, and he's just coming up clutch with the power. Defense looks better this year when he's not having to stare into the sun. But overall, I think it's that just doing damage at the plate. And I think the biggest thing I think for Mickey is that he is just finally just settled in. He's comfortable where he is. He loves being with the Rockies and settling in here at home. He's found a home, and it's given him second wind in his career of where he's at with the pedigree and everything, and the failures of prospect bust. But for him to now just settle in, and he's still like, he's not that old still. He's what, 28? He'll be turned 28 here pretty soon.
Yeah, in like a week.
Yeah, next week he'll turn 28.
Week and a half, he's going to be 28, which, considering he's already been in the league now since, when did he debut? 26. He was drafted in 2016.
He debuted in
2021.
2020 at the age of 22.
So he's already been in the league now. This is technically going to be his 7th season. And I want to shout out his defense because is he still a good defender? No, not really. I don't think he ever will be, especially in the cavernous Coors outfield. It's just not the best of fits for him. But he's making it work significantly better than he was last year, where his final stats for last year overall as an outfielder: -23 defensive runs saved, -8 outs above average, and a -12 fielding run value. Pretty bad. One of the reasons why his WAR was in the toilet last year. This year, as an overall outfielder, -3 DRS, -1 each for OAA and FRV. That is, for the Coors Field outfield, perfectly cromulent. Like, is it jaw-dropping stuff like we have seen from other outfielders? No. Is it getting the job done? Yes. To the point where he has positive wins above replacement. He's almost coming into today, he was at 0.8. And after the home runs, he's going to go up a couple ticks.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing his thing, and he's continuing to grow, and maybe he can be an all-star this year. That'd be great. But definitely worthy of that first Player of the Month award. Again, we won't spend too much time on it. We'll talk about him another time. Hunter Goodman, probably a close second, 9 home runs. Still striking out a good clip, but he's tapping into his power a good bit. Edward Julien, also, they've all doing a pretty nice first month of the season. There were concerns about Eddie coming into the year of, can he replicate what he was doing in Minnesota and the defense and all this stuff, but he settled in nicely at the top of the order. So an honorable mention for old Edouard Julien.
Yeah, we spent so much time talking about the newcomers at first base, Troy and TJ, that we haven't really talked a ton about our new friend Eddie J. And he was pretty rough to start the season, where first handful of games, and he wasn't very good in the World Baseball Classic either. He wasn't looking very good in spring training.
He was getting sporadic playing time too.
And then you come into really where things start to turn around is like the April 6th mark, which was his first multi-hit game of the season. And since April 6th, coming into the 1st of May, he's hitting 319, 417, 458. He's got 2 home runs. He's got a triple. He's got 2 doubles. He's got 11 walks to 19 strikeouts. He's only struck out 8 more times than he has drawn walks. And that was, sort of the Twins form of, he's not like a killer slugger, but he is a guy who sees the ball well and gets on base.
Yeah. I think he's made some slick plays out at second base.
He's not the
perfectly
best.
Fine out there.
Yeah. He's one of those things where his defense, is it jaw-dropping? Nope. Have we been spoiled by other good defenders at second base in our lives that can make us have higher expectations? Yeah. Is he doing just fine? Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, there is not a guy right now that I would rather have playing second base.
Yeah. Like him and Willie Castro swapping defensively out at second base, there's no real difference.
Yeah, it works just fine for me.
Yeah. And the thing with defense is you can always improve on that. I'm sure he'll continue to work hard on defense, everything like all the guys are. But fun stuff. We like Eddie J.
I am really happy that he's doing well, because I liked him a lot when he was with the Twins, and when he struggled last year, he lost his spot for playing time and ended up being disposable to the Twins. That ends up being the Rockies game, and I am really pleased.
Remember Pearson Ole? It's a shame that he had Tommy John.
Yeah,
I would have liked to see what Ole could have done this year, but anyway, that's a discussion for another time. But that'll do it here for this edition of Affected by Altitude. Again, the recap: Chase Dollander, our pitcher of the month. Mickey Moniak, the player of the month. The position player of the month. We call him the player of the month. But Evan, where can the folks find you?
Find me over on Blue Sky, evanlang27.bsky.social. Love to hear from you. Catch me over on Purple Road doing game recaps on Thursdays and Sundays, as well as occasionally doing some other stuff. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. If it's got podcasts, you can find us on it. You can also find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on most social media platforms, including YouTube, where you can catch the video version of the show. That's going to be at Rocky Mountain Rooftop, at ROCKY MTN Rooftop.
All right, so you can find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmons or on Blue Sky S Timmons 13, WSKY.social, and writing Wednesday Rock Piles. Good stuff. And I usually do the game recap on Wednesday. But yeah, I think that'll do it here for this edition of Affected by Altitude. Fun times to be had, especially when I ask the question, why did the cell phone get glasses? Because she lost all her contacts. But we always appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Rate us on the audio platforms, Apple, Spotify. Please leave a review. It helps the show. I think it helps it get more publicity.
Yeah.
Sort of
Engagement or whatever you call it.
Yeah. All that good stuff. But as always, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time here on Affected by Altitude. Evan, hit him with it.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.
No more Laffy Taffy jokes.
Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
Because he was outstanding in his field. That's an old one.
It's true. This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.